Episode 5. The Declaration. The sanctuary bustled with nervous energy. After weeks of relative calm, news of Gabriel's warning had rattled the community. Some were ready to run deeper into the wilderness, others argued for resistance. But Caleb Ford's return from the mountains had steadied many. His words, sharpened by the trials he faced in isolation, now carried a weight they hadn't before. He no longer spoke only of tearing down the system. He spoke of rebuilding something truer, something lasting. Zach kept his distance, unsure of where he stood in all of it. He wasn't a leader or a fighter. He was just a father, trying to keep his family safe in a world that had spun wildly out of control. But he couldn't deny the power Caleb's presence brought to the sanctuary. That night, Caleb called a meeting in the heart of the camp. His return from the wilderness had drawn newcomers, many of whom had heard whispers of his growing influence through encrypted networks. As the crowd gathered, torches flickering in the cold air, Caleb stepped onto a makeshift platform. Caleb stood silent for a moment, scanning the faces before him. Then he began to speak, his voice low but resolute. "I've spent my life calling out hypocrisy," he said, "exposing the lies of the powerful. And for a long time, I thought that was enough, that if I could just show people the truth, they'd change. But I was wrong." The crowd was silent, hanging on his words. The truth isn't just something you see, it's something you live. And living it will cost you. That's what Gabriel doesn't understand. It can track us, measure us, control us, but it can't own the truth. Because the truth doesn't belong to a system or an algorithm. It's alive. Zach felt a chill run through him. Caleb's words were familiar, yet they seemed to hint at something more. Something beyond the sanctuary and even beyond Caleb himself. Then Caleb's tone shifted. Sharper now, his gaze locking on a small group at the edge of the gathering. They stood apart, well-dressed and composed. Former elites who had defected to the sanctuary when Gabriel's system turned on them. "You," Caleb said, pointing toward them, "you think you've escaped the system, but you brought it with you. Your wealth, your influence, your so-called expertise. It's all still here. You think because you've joined us, you're absolved. You've done nothing but cloak your greed in a new narrative. You're no different than Gabriel." The tension in the crowd rose as murmurs rippled through the group. Malcolm, one of the former elites, stepped forward, his face calm, but his voice laced with contempt. "You talk about truth and change, Caleb. But what do you really know?" Malcolm said. "You've turned this camp into your pulpit, calling out others while offering no solutions. Do you think words alone will save these people when Gabriel comes?" Caleb's gaze didn't waver. "Solutions? You think the lies you told yourself before Gabriel turned on you are solutions? The truth doesn't need a plan. It needs people willing to live it." Malcolm scoffed. "And you're the one to decide what that looks like." "No," Caleb replied. "I'm just the one saying it out loud. The truth isn't mine to give, but it is here, whether you like it or not." The argument simmered as Caleb turned back to the larger crowd. "You've all come here because you're looking for something," Caleb continued. "Freedom, safety, maybe even redemption. But if you're not ready to let go of what brought you here, you'll never find it. The truth isn't comfortable, and it doesn't care about your excuses. It's here to change you, whether you want it to or not." Some nodded, their faces reflective, while others bristled at the challenge in Caleb's words. Then, an older woman in the crowd spoke up, her voice breaking the silence. "You say the truth is here, Caleb, but where is it? What does it look like? You keep saying someone is coming. Who? When? Caleb paused, his expression softening as he met her gaze. The truth isn't a concept or an idea. It's alive. It's already working, shaping us, moving through everything we do. And yes, someone is coming. Someone who will show us what it looks like to live the truth fully. But they're not here to fit our expectations. They're here to challenge everything we think we know. The murmurs grew louder now, and Malcolm's voice rose again, louder and angrier. Enough with your riddles, Caleb. If this person exists, where are they? Show us something real, or stop pretending you have all the answers. Caleb's eyes burned, but his voice remained calm. You wouldn't believe it if you saw it. You're too wrapped up in your own expectations, your own pride. The truth could stand right in front of you, and you'd reject it because it doesn't fit your vision of the world. The tension in the air was electric, the crowd splitting into murmuring factions. Some moved closer to Caleb, their eyes alight with hope. Others, like Malcolm, turned away, their faces twisted with disbelief or frustration. That night, Zach sat by the fire, Beth and John asleep beside him. He replayed Caleb's words in his mind, trying to make sense of what they meant. Someone is coming. Caleb had said it before, but tonight it felt different, more urgent, more real. Zach glanced down at John, who stirred slightly in his sleep. His son's presence had brought so many people together, sparked so much change. But Zach couldn't shake the feeling that John was only the beginning, a small flame pointing toward a fire, far greater than anyone could imagine. And as the fire crackled in the cold night, Zach felt it again, that quiet presence, unseen yet undeniable. It wasn't Caleb's words or the sanctuary's fragile hope. It was something deeper, older, and infinitely more powerful. The truth was already here, moving through their lives like an invisible thread, waiting to be fully revealed.